As we all know, the USC Honors College is among the best in the country, but when seeking a job in Massachusetts for personal reasons, I found myself competing against students from MIT and Harvard and dealing with HR departments who were less familiar with the rigor of the SCHC. The way that I got people's attention was with my thesis. Employers didn't particularly care about my policy recommendations for South Carolina higher education funding, which was my thesis, but they did care about my ability to show off the skills that I had learned. The quality of my writing and analysis set me apart from other applicants and got me in the door. Once I got the job, I realized that the skills I learned while writing my thesis helped me transition to the workforce more quickly than some of my coworkers who graduated around the same time. I consider myself to be an independent learner, able to self-motivate and make progress without strict deadlines, but even I felt the uncertainty that a lack of structure of corporate America could induce. Deadlines are often fuzzy at best, and depending on the task, there's very little structure on how and when you should accomplish your work. I saw some of my colleagues get stuck in cycles of procrastination, uncertainty, and underperformance because they had a difficult time transitioning from a more structured academic environment to a less structured professional world. I didn't have nearly as much trouble with this transition because I had experience with a completely self-driven project, my thesis. I managed my thesis from beginning conceptualization through execution all the way to completion. I formed my own timeline, and while I had guidance and mentorship from my thesis readers, most of the work was completely self-managed. Even if the subject matter wasn't relevant to my job at all, the process of managing my own time was relevant. This translated well to working experience because much of my work was in the form of reports delivered to management every 3 to 6 months. Being able to set deadlines and pace myself to make consistent, incremental progress was an invaluable skill that I didn't have a chance to learn anywhere else in my academic career. While my transition from being a student to being a professional was hard in many ways, I felt more prepared and confident in this particular aspect of post-graduation life. As I mentioned earlier, I am now an economics PhD student and I do research in mental health policy. I decided to go to graduate school late in my academic career, so I didn't have as much typical research experience as some of my peers. I was able to provide my thesis as a writing sample on my applications and show my passion that really set me apart. I believe that made up for my lack of quote-unquote formal research experience. I came into graduate school with a finished project under my belt and a high level of comfort reading academic literature and research skills that I still use every day. Additionally, my thesis is available on Scholar Commons and it still gets downloaded about a dozen times per month, even though it was published 4 years ago. Another way my thesis has served me while in graduate school is through teaching me how to ask good questions. In my opinion, the hardest part of a PhD is learning how to ask good and relevant research questions. With such a deep well of prior research on seemingly every topic, it's hard to know what's been done, what people care about, and what answers are going to make a difference in the world. This is something I still struggle with, but every little bit of experience you can get in learning how to think through interesting and important questions helps. No matter if you're planning to join the workforce or go to graduate school after you graduate, I believe that you'll find the skills you gained by writing your thesis will be relevant to you. But the biggest reason I'm grateful for my thesis experience isn't because it helped me get a job or get into graduate school. The biggest reason is that it made me a more informed community member and helped me connect with people who cared about the same issues I did. Choosing my thesis topic was the first time I got to pick a project that 100% aligned with my passions and interests. Doing research for my thesis put me in contact with university administrators, state policymakers, and professors who cared about this issue just as much as I did, if not more. In the midst of post-graduation uncertainty and senioritis, I could motivate myself by advocating for policies that were important to me, talking to important and interesting people, and getting a glimpse of what life might look like after graduation. This isn't to say writing my thesis wasn't hard, it was, but I wholeheartedly believe that it is worth it and I would do it all over again if given the opportunity.